Hey folks, welcome to Kaisers Kastle. Take a seat on my big orange couch and enjoy this night, because what we're about to get into is something that many of you have, especially the men out there: confidence and competence. And for this show, I brought on a brother of mine, Dano, which many of you have heard before. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if I'm not coming in right. Let me know before this thing truly kicks off hardcore, because we're going to get hardcore on this. Confidence. Okay, many of us can say we're very confident on the way the world works. We can also say, if we delude ourselves, we can also say we're competent. But the problem is, there's a difference. And what I mean by that is, competence is where you actually can execute a job proficiently, some way, somehow. Competence is that you actually do it. And that's something that a lot of people have not ever brought into this realm. So, with that being said, I want to bring in Dano at this moment. And let me know when you're on, brother. All you got to do is unmute your mic, and you are on and live and on fire, brother. So, hopefully you do that soon. So, everybody can hear your dulcet tones. You there, Dano? Well, maybe he's not. I would hope he is, but hold up. Trying to see. He says he's here, but we're not hearing him. So, there's a problem going on. Dano, unmute. That's probably the issue. Or I'll recall you. It's not an issue either way. Alright, so I think I'm going to have to recall him. So, here we go. You guys will hear a little buzzing. Yep.
Check.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, there you are, man.
You're on now.
All right.
Hang up on that ring buzzer. This is what happens when you do a live stream.
Live without a net, baby.
There you go. You know what's up.
That's what it's all about. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. You here? Can you hear me? All right. Here we go. We're going to do it again.
One more time.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you are.
All right. No worries.
Dig up.
So, now we're here. So, with what we've been talking about, confidence. Now, you and I both know. Can you hear him now?
Check.
Now
Hello.
all good. Val just said yes, all good for both of us.
Thank you, Val. Appreciate it.
Yep. Everybody take a seat on our big orange couch. It's big enough for everybody to sit on Kaisers Kastle and also Dano's castle.
KTRN.
Yeah, KTRN, Castle Talk Radio Network. That's something you guys haven't heard. Now we're in the 94th. I counted them today. The 94th podcast.
Really?
Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I didn't think you'd get that far with it, but I'm not always able to be here, and
yep.
Life is happening. As a grandparent, I will tell you, life happens, and it happens very, very quickly. So it makes it an entirely different world trying to schedule podcasts between kids and
grandbabies.
Yeah, grandbabies, FaceTime, and helping with homework. So for those of you who aren't grandparents yet, the helping with the homework, it's coming, and my grandkids love that stuff. They can't get enough of grandpas. So
isn't it good shit? That's
always is good shit
that these younger folks are gonna learn and love. But tonight we're talking about confidence and competence. How many times in your life have you felt, man, I'm confident I can do this, and then all of a sudden you get in over your head? It's happened to all of us. And then there comes something where you have competence, and once you have that competence, you can't get over your head because you're not going to allow yourself to. And that's kind of the bailiwick I wanted to talk about tonight. So what's your thoughts on that? And I'll mute myself.
A lot of times you can take the test, you can look at the books, you can do everything there is to be done as far as preparing, quote unquote, / for the job. But it's not until you're in the heat of the moment that you actually do it. because there's things that can't be taught in a book for those things that happen, those oh shit moments. When those moments happen, it's like, well, we couldn't put that in the book. There's no way to know that this would happen because there's so many different variables involved in that position that you have to be able to go ahead and learn it. And your ability to work on the fly with that is paramount to your success in that particular situation. So it's important that you go ahead and you have a firm grasp of everything that was taught on an academic level to you and in your practicals. Yeah, practical a lot of the times, and some of the things that what you do in the military, what they show you in a book versus the practical application in that classroom situation. The practical application doesn't always take place in the classroom situation. They have simulators, like in the Navy. They have simulators. They have things that they do to make you believe that everything is going to collapse around you. But it isn't the case. They want you to have that oh crap moment while you're in that simulator versus being out on the ship and when someone dies.
Or out there on the line. If you're out there doing what you have to do, your job is to basically be competent.
Right.
You can have all the confidence in the world, but if all of a sudden, let's say cords are failing and you're having to put new cords in, or a brother of yours is putting them in, you have to have the faith that that's happening. Hi, Ivy. Hi, Val. Also, Cold Warrior. All you guys are here. You have to have confidence they're putting them in the right holes into your mic, whatever you're doing. You have to have confidence that the guy bringing more ammo to you is bringing the right caliber. If it's on a belt, magazine, it matters not. Or a brother of yours, you're like, I'm out of rounds, and all of a sudden he throws you a mag. If you have plenty of rounds for your pistol, but you don't have plenty of rounds for your rifle,
right?
If he's throwing you the right rounds, when he sees you, press, drop, whatever magazine you're doing.
Right.
So that's kind of the thought process I was going on with this.
Yeah, they have to make sure that you relate and you understand what the other person needs in that particular situation, so everyone comes home. That's the goal. Everyone comes home. And the only way that everyone comes home is everyone functions on the same wavelength, and that you understand what is needed at that moment. When you're out there and those little bumblebees are flying by your head, and folks, those aren't little bumblebees for those of us that have been out here and been in that situation before, but you know what I mean. When you're out at that moment and it's like the little bumblebees are flying by your head, and those bumblebees will freaking kill you. That has no one's particular name on it. They don't care. They just care that the opposition falls by their round. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
But at that moment, when you share with someone else on the line, you have to know that you understand exactly what it is that they need, and you give them exactly what it is, because what you give someone else that may be incorrect, you may need it, and they may go down and not be able to return that to you.
Yep. And the bumblebees are what it sounds like after it goes by your head, but when it goes by your head or your bodice, you will hear towel snaps, like you're getting somebody rolled up a towel, a wet towel, and snapped it next to you. That's that sonic boom. And then the bumblebees are, when they're a little further away. But that, and I know that.
Yeah. A lot of us out there listening have had that experience, and there's some folks that don't fare well in those situations. That's the God's honest truth. There's some folks that just don't, they haven't, and this is where the competence comes in. Were you really honestly present for training? Were you kind of hanging back only making one run through the drill? Or were you making multiple runs through the drill? So when they were putting those rounds over top of your head while you're crawling down there eating that crap on the ground, were you there? Did you only make one pass? Did you make multiple passes? There's things that you have to be able to make multiple passes at, and good instructors keep account of all their students, and they say, "No, you've only gone through once. We need you to go through X amount of times." And that's where that competence comes in, because the first time that flies over your head, if you
Yep.
don't have an involuntary reaction that you're terrified, it isn't working right. There's some guys, it doesn't matter. They're kind of like, yeah, so whatever. They go ahead and they block it out and they keep doing what they're doing. But there's some folks, they don't do well with it, and that's the unfortunate part of the situation. But again, it comes back to the ability to block it out and keep moving forward and keep doing your job, and make sure that you give those around you the exact material that they need to come home with you.
Yes, because in the end, that is your number one priority, is everybody comes home.
Absolutely. No one wants to no one signed up to be, to catch the golden BB, so to speak. No one did that. They signed up to have competent people with them that understood exactly what had to be done for everyone to come home for a successful mission. So, yeah, kind of killing it at this point. But yeah, I think everyone gets it. The confidence to do it, though, is you build that confidence with more drills that you do, though. The more exposure to it. Because first time you do it and you kind of see that you did it right, then you're kind of like, okay, that's not bad. But you have to go back. You have to repeat. It's called training. The more you bleed at training, the better off you are in battle, because that allows you to come home and allows the man to the left and to the right of you to come home as well.
Indeed. And the other thing that I will say is there are a lot of people that are very confident they can do things. But how many times have we watched that confident person melt under fire? And that's a for real thing people don't see, is because now they have added stresses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until you've actually dealt with that stress or dealt with
Right.
those stresses that you actually can say. And honestly, even with those that have proven themselves in the past, there's an old adage we say, everybody hesitates. The difference is how long you hesitate, because it's not easy. It's not like you're going to just bounce right up, get right in it. It might be a second, it might be 3, 4, 5, it might be 30 seconds, and that can mean the end of your entire team.
Oh, definitely. And if you're like when some of us that were in the Navy, we do this thing called unrep. For those of you that are unfamiliar with it, it means that two ships are out there and they're pull up across from each other and they're both doing their thing. They're pitching, they're rolling, they're bitching, they're flipping, they're doing everything possible. But the trick is the Navy just does an unreps for fuel and supplies. The trick is Navy just doesn't do unrep on a calm 72 degree day. They do it all times a day, all times a night, depending on the particular scenario or situation that they're in. And when you get out there and you're on that line team pulling that probe across to be able to go ahead and get across there, first they send the guy wires across. They go ahead, they secure that into the block and tackle, and that marries the two units together. So then the 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 quartermasters, they have to, the helmsman, for if that's what you want to call them, the helmsman, they have to go ahead and maintain that course. They have to go ahead and match that speed. Everybody has to have done this numerous times, because you'll kill people. That guy line snaps. It's dangerous stuff. That is an 8 braid cable that goes across from ship to ship, that they go ahead and they basically run on a block and tackle on both ends of it.
To
And you've got to
clarify,
pull.
to clarify for all these people that are listening tonight, um, what he means is like parachute cord, and they launched that out of a blank firing dummy grenade. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have all these guys rush out. It's replenishment. And you have all these guys run out, and then they'll put it in that block and tackle, which is usually pneumatic, or if it's not pneumatic, it's electric. It wraps that and it pulls thicker and thicker and thicker cables. And they have to maintain same speed. And while you're at it, rolling seas, because normally that's when replenishment happens,
Right.
they'll put all the supplies that they're replenishing you with, except for the aviation fuel or the fuel for your vessel. Those will be actual connectors that will connect to your vehicle or your vessel, and those will be connected at the same time. And so distance is a factor, so they can't get too far away. If they do, both those fuel lines will burst, and so will anything coming across on a net. And that's another thing, the net's coming across, even if it's being done by gravity, will have somebody on that ship who's controlling it, usually with 550 cord or slightly larger cord, coming in and going out. And so there's going to be a marrying of that. And if either of those cordages break, or those fuel lines, that's a failure on replenishment. I know we're getting into the weeds, but this is what we're trying to talk about.
Right. So when you do this, and remember that wire that goes across there. Now, James, I know, I know that you used to work steel, so you're familiar with those steel cables that are used when they go to move beams and things.
Indeed, beams and columns.
So the beams and columns that move with those big old wires, big steel wires, about typically probably about 8 to 12. I don't want to say runs, but they're just braided. They're just braided pieces of line, typically about a 8 to 12
Yeah,
wrapped
braided
up in
pieces
that.
of steel cord. Right.
Yep. And that's what's holding across there. So then what happens is the guys on the ship, you have your team that has to go ahead and pull that across. It's about a 200-pound nipple that comes across, marries into the side of the ship. Then they go ahead and they start to flow. Well, then what happens is when they start pumping that fuel, it gets really heavy. And it isn't like water at 7 pounds a gallon. It's considerably more than that. But they can go ahead and they push that across. They can fuel for the gas steam turbines. They also take fuel on board for any helicopters they may have that come in and come out. And a lot of those ships that you see out there, like the destroyers and the cruisers, they're responsible for providing fuel to any of the helicopters that land on the back of their deck.
It's always jet fuel for the helicopters, or you have to think about this, folks. It's always jet fuel, kerosene, basically. JP4, JP8, whatever people want to call it. And it's kerosene. So just think if one of those braided lines break and spark, that fuel now becomes fire coming out of both hoses and the input.
So really, honestly, you can't train for that. You have to have a seniority of your crew members that know how to do it, and they bring new guys on, and then they do from each unrep, they go ahead and they move them up the chain, so to speak. They learn to take greater responsibilities in when they go ahead and they bring that on. But that's how you build your competence
and your confidence.
And then you get confidence with it.
And your institutional knowledge.
Right.
That's something that has been given short shrift because, everybody can do everything. If I'm a woman, I can do it. If I'm a man, I can do it. If I'm a puss-ass man, which there are such a thing, I can't do that.
Right.
I'd be a lag guy, and nobody would want to be around me. And the same thing if I was a woman. There are women that could do a lot of things I can do. I would love to say more than I can do, but I probably can't. But just because I haven't seen it, but there have been women that can perform at least on par with me when I'm just normally doing what I do. I guess not at full run, not at full muscular capacity, but these are things that just slapping my own self on the dick and saying I'm this, that, and the other, and I'm not. It's about there are women that can perform, so I'm not sliding them, especially in the military. I won't do that because they're veterans too. And I don't shit on any veteran. That's a fact.
Right.
You know this, but you know what I'm saying on that.
Right. So, but the problem is that what's happening though is that this lack of competence is definitely expanding beyond from the military, but it's going on into everyday life. That's the problem. And whether it be on Capitol Hill, where people are screaming, "We're going to impeach that MFer," that was really sweet. That was a gift. I don't think that anyone could have asked for any better gift to have someone scream on the day that they were sworn in.
Well,
we're going to impeach that MFer. That was great.
It's the same bullshit. The same woman swore her oath. Just like here's a lack of cognizance from both her and Keith Ellison and the Somalian. They wanted to swear on Thomas Jefferson's Quran. What their cognizance is lacking on is that was actually written as a warning back in the day to Americans and was published by Thomas Jefferson to this is what Islam is. This is what they want from you. And what they want is you to be subservient to Islam and Sharia law. And there's a preface in it. You are not going to believe what these people think. And then he had to send in, after he published this, people fail to remember this. Us Navy and Marine Corps veterans remember this. Remember, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. The first keys of it to the shores of Tripoli, that was for the Barbary pirates who were pressing American soldiers and females traveling transatlantically and going into Africa or the Middle East. They are making the males serve on their ships, pressing them into service, and the females were turned into sex slaves. That's a fact. That was why we had our first anti-war, anti-outside war president, which was Thomas Jefferson. He did not want to get into foreign embranglements, and yet he got us into our first foreign war because of those things that were happening. There's something to say when we protect our people, period, male and female, from being pressed or put into slavery of one such type or another.
Well, unfortunately, I'm forecasting a civil war at some point in time. It's going to be real, and people are going to have to become prepared. You're going to have to become skilled. You're going to have that competence and confidence of what it is that you use to defend yourself. Failure to have that will end up with your head being cut off and being paraded around.
Oh,
So
well,
I'll keep it real for you.
yeah, you're looking at a real Game of Thrones right now. And this is something nobody wants to look at. We can joke around about a lot of shit. Now, I want to keep this to be a short term program tonight.
Right.
I've got to get to bed because, things are going on. But yeah, I'm going to get up early. If you're up, we'll do Dano in the morning, you and
Okay.
I. But what you're looking at in Europe, and I think we're going to see some more of it spread tomorrow. If I'm wrong, then, I'll be wrong. But I haven't been wrong yet, have I, Dano?
Typically, no, not. You're typically pretty dead on. We've seen a lot of other things happen and related to some of the other conversations that you and I have had. And it's going to be interesting. I'm waiting to see how the DNC still tries to weaponize Mueller any more than what they've already weaponized him. I believe it's going to come back and it's going to bite them in a way they did not intend, because we have a shutdown right now. And there was an interview I saw with Chucky Schumer the other day, and someone went back. The reporter caught up with him, much to his unhappiness, played his remarks, and he said, "Well, I went ahead and I supported a fence, not a wall." So they're playing semantics with everything. And Pence is allegedly supposed to be negotiating with Democrat aides. I wouldn't be negotiating with aides. I'd tell them to get their asses up there and sit down and talk to me face to face and work it out. I just, I foresee this lasting for a little bit longer than what everyone wanted it to last. I know that there are some people out there that are on food stamps that legitimately need it. A lot of the government employees, they kind of look at it as a paid vacation because they eventually get their money back.
Of course. And here's the thing. It's no different than when I was talking with my uncle who's now dead, and he was like, well, my congressman Ed Royce out of Fullerton, California, and he said, you need to tell him about this issue and that issue that I knew all about, because he's on the Homeland Security thing. And the first thing he says, I'll have you talk to my aide. And I said, I won't talk to your aide. I'll talk to you, and I'll talk to you alone, face to face. Well, we can't do that. They have to have a way to avoid responsibility. And they know they can't, in the District of Columbia, they cannot tape you one-on-one if you don't know they're taping you. But if they have another person there, they can say, well, we knew he was here. And trust me, these are real deal shit. You know what I'm talking about without me even saying it. Right. And Ed Royce, I have no respect for him or his little admin puke. And honestly, I'll tell you another one from Ohio. And he's a veteran. It really sickens me. Steve Stivers. He was like, I wanted to get on to the Intel thing. And I was like, well, I'll give you something that'll get you right on there. And guess what? He was like, well, and he has this little black cuck guy who was like, well, you have to talk to me about that. And I was like, no, I don't have to talk to you about that. And so I gave it to him twice. And so now, everything I know, somewhere on the interwebs, and definitely in a few places that I've written about, and I've got them in lawyers' hands, all this information will come out one day, because I'm not going to be a bitch to this federal government that I served. And that's something I think we don't see nowadays, is men that will stand and say, you know what, I have my own tribe and I can do this without any governmental assistance or interference. And that's why the thing that made my back raise even harder was when I got a visit. And when you visit me, I know I'm under investigation and I get the rules. And guess what? You have to do the shoe work. You have to figure it out, and none of them can. And you know this, Dano.
Oh, they don't want to do they don't want to do the hard stuff. They want you to give it up for them. They want to be able to go ahead and get you on a one-on-one charge. That's all they want to do.
That's all they want. 1001. And
yeah, that's all they want.
They're a bunch of cunts.
1001.
And
yeah,
so we've had a fireside chat. Dano and I are going to be doing this hopefully in the morning. Give me a rough time so I can schedule that.
Okay.
And
we'll wait and see.
If I'm up,
right,
we'll do this in the morning, and we'll do Dano in the morning. Look, folks, you're about to see Kaiser Talk Radio Network. You're about to see World Pirate Radio Podcast Network go live. This is something we're all keeping quiet, but you're about to see things explode to where you're going to have multiple people come in. Alan, BZ, many people. We've all talked about this, and we're going to make this happen one way or the other, and you folks will be entertained.
You're going to be informed.
Yes.
You're going to get the truth. You're not going to get a bunch of junk. You know, one of the things I wanted to go ahead and pass along here, one of the things I went ahead and I noticed took place, I looked at Drudge. And, you know, the Consumer Electronics Show is getting ready to take place if it hasn't already started to happen. Apple went ahead on the side of one of the, looks like a Spring Hill Suites building. On the side of it, it says, what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. And while I'm a first-time, yeah, I know. Isn't it horrible? Isn't it horrible? Look what they're doing.
The iPhones are about the most open thing you can have out there, even more than the Google phones, the Android.
Now the Google phones are horrible. And you know what? And if you want to really get sick, look what they're doing to Dr. Savage. That's even worse yet. And look what they've done to AJ.
They deplatformed Dr. Savage. If those of you who don't know this, if you're not listening to AJ, Alex Jones is what he meant. Dr. Savage, Michael Weiner, whatever you know him by, but he's published books. He is a botanist. There's a lot about him. He even wrote a book about beer. I have that book. I met him one time and met his son, who actually owned Rockstar Beverages. So here's the funny part. They have given his show 3/4 of it. He gets 1 hour of it. He will not talk about this. But what I will tell you is they have given the rest of his show after that first hour to Ben. You know what I'm talking about, bruh. And this guy, he may be an idiot savant, a smart man, a lawyer, but we all know who he is and what he does. And they may both be Jewish, but they disagree on things.
Right.
Savage is a normal guy,
right,
who happens to be Jewish. And Ben, well, you go on and let him know what. Well, you know, he's a neocon. But does that shock you with the type of person it is? Bring up Ben, and I'll let you say his name.
Well, I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to give him any credibility any more than what they've already given him, because he was an anti-Trumper from jump to begin with. He and his little tramp girlfriend, who accused Corey Lewandowski of assaulting her when Corey really didn't. And I really believe that people misunderstand drastically that just because there's this huge misconception that because Mr. Trump all of a sudden doesn't have someone on staff, seems to think that they've withered on the vine to him. trust and believe Mr. Trump has many people in his ear that give him a lot of valuable input that allows him to do the job that he does at a very efficient level. And that's what's terrifying the globalists. They hate it. They can't stand it. They
They
can't
can't
control it.
stand he has intel sources coming to him from other places other than the CIA, the NSA. I won't go into the other one because that's
Right.
primarily where he's getting his intel from.
Right.
But, you know, like I said a long time ago, and you know this, there's only one agency I trust, and every agency I trust comes from defense. And you guys can figure it out from there.
Well, if you all think that for some, and you know, the other thing that I kind of had to just shake my head and beat it very gently against the wall because there's already a big old bruise there, is that the resignation of one General Mad Dog Mateus. And these resignations, I'm telling you guys, it's all cards. It's all cards being played. And if you think that Mr. Mateus resigning all of a sudden that he is not being heard from, you're sadly mistaken. He's being heard from. Mr. Trump cannot, as a newbie per se, Mr. Trump can't make all these informed decisions because being new, he doesn't have that confidence. He has all the confidence that he wants to go ahead and have that he can go ahead and make these changes.
Well, it's no different than when another person who left, and that's why they did that to him when he first got in. They had to make a reconcile with well, you know what I'm talking about. They tried to indict him, this, that, and the other. We're going to see what happens with him. And it's another general.
Right.
I don't want to get into names. But you know who I'm talking about. It starts with an F. And Mattis, the thing about General Mattis is there are certain times when somebody leaves service, they no longer are under a security clearance kind of thing. Because nobody can say, well, you're under this gag order now. They can listen to those people. And trust me, there's nothing more freeing than leaving federal service. Because once you're free of it, and trust me, nobody will talk about anything they've signed a non-disclosure agreement on. But once you leave and you still have your brothers and your sisters and you guys talk freely, because that's kind of what we do, even though we're not supposed to, we still do it. And there's always somebody that can leak a little leaky leak, and that's what we do.
Well, it's just the way that it rolls because people are tired of our country being compromised time and time again. So this is where the truth comes out. And it's really going to become very interesting with the harder push that Mr. Trump has to go ahead and move us back to a gold standard with our currency. There's a lot of things going on. The UN's complaining that they're running out of money. Well, that's the best thing we could possibly do is pack them on a barge and kick them out to the Atlantic Ocean and let them float to wherever it is they end up at, wherever the currents take them.
And let Angela Merkel and her ilk deal with them. Look,
oh yeah,
you know for a fact I respected Angela at one time. We're not going to get into that, but
right.
The more, well, I don't really even want to get into that because it just sounds like I'm taking cheap shots at her dumbass.
Well, no, you're not, because she's a former Stasi operative.
Yeah,
I mean that's just all there is to it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she was, and they didn't know no one knew who she was, and just like Putin, no one knew who Putin was. Putin was Grace. There's a lot of little things that people are not aware of, that these folks were at one point in time a nobody.
And Putin was head of Berlin Station for
Mm-hmm.
KGB GRU. And everybody coming out of Berlin Station, the communist, and Putin's no longer a communist, by the way. That's the thing that boggles my mind. Putin, who is a Russian, he actually has become a nationalist.
Right.
And yet you have Stasi girl. Stasi girl. Stasi girl. We have her pushing communism into the West.
Now,
And
one of the breaking things, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying that's amazing to me
Right.
that would happen, especially with her. I did not see that as going to be a fait accompli, but it has become that, and that's what I was trying to say.
Right. So one of the things that we saw today that came out of France, there was video that came out. This big hulking guy, probably about 6'2", 6'3", took on 5 French police officers in a Rocky Balboa move. And he beat this one guy senseless, literally, just kept pummeling his shield. And of course, the French police, they just keep backing up. But the trick is this, is you have to look at the helmets and the emblems on the helmets that are taking place as far as with the yellow vest protest in
And they
France
were
right now.
German.
No, they were not German. They were blue. They had the EU symbol on them.
Yeah, but they were German. They came in from Germany just with the EU flag.
Oh, okay.
I have some insight on that. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So here it is. Macron also had the leader of the yellow vest protest arrested, figuring that would go ahead and shut it off. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to be enough to pacify the people that are sick and tired of everything that's going on with their country over there.
Europa is awake. Here's the problem they're not seeing. And this is talking from me to you, and we're brothers, and we both know where we're from and what we're about. We're Americans, but we're both pretty good at discerning things, and we listen to each other. I will stand corrected when I need to, and of course, Dano knows this. But this is what happened. They're having to shove because notice they stopped showing French policemen and French medics and French firemen trying to put it down. And every time you see an armored car, every time you see a policeman, it's EU. And so is Austria. It is throwing across EU lines. The Germans are running out of assets. What was West Germany that now uses East German assets also? East Germany is in full revolt. Because everybody who experienced communism understands what we're looking at now on the West. It is about subverting culture. And that is the important thing to look at this moment, is people are awake. And unfortunately, in the U.S., we went back a little bit, but I think they're going to overstep again, just like Little Miss Bitch wanted to, who swore on the Quran and said, yeah, my son, da-da-da-da-da, and we're going to stand up against this motherfucker. No. Guess what? Your son's probably going to stand against you. Generation Z is the most conservative generation that has ever come out of the U.S. And those that feel they've lost their way, the millennials went more conservative. Generation Z, oh my land, the millennials and everybody who's fighting for all this BS, they're about to get a shock because they're going to have a very short stint. And then I really am glad I'll be dead by that time, because I got a feeling, the ovens will be fired up again.
Well, the one thing that I can tell you is this, is statistics are showing, you and I discussed this yesterday during our sit down. So the stats are showing Generation Z is ditching the college. They're going to the trade schools. They're going back to
Yep.
make the blue working class dominant and prominent and dominant again, have that voting block. They're ditching it. We had a situation today. We went out for lunch, explained to this millennial boy how the situation worked at the restaurant where we were at, where you put the order in and that they don't get the ticket in the back. You have to walk it up to the counter. And he wanted to go ahead and argue with Mrs. Dano. Well,
That's always a bad move.
yeah. He wrapped it around the pole, and she just finally looked at him and she said, "Dude, if you go hungry, that's your problem. It's not mine." So the little twerpiness finally listened and went up there, and he just kind of looked. And when he walked by, he started to give her a dirty look. And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, if I were you, I'd keep that look and keep on stepping, buddy. I said, because you won't get any mileage out of that with me. I said, if anything, I'll go find your parents. I said, where are your parents?
Yep.
Man, that's when I asked where his parents was. He was gone like a shot. So he knew he didn't want anything to do with it. We're seeing all these things starting to take place. We're seeing that there was legislation introduced in the House for term limits. And the term limits are going to become a really ugly fight. It's not going to go anywhere, but we're going to be prepared for about another 2 years worth of gridlock. But what's going to happen and what's going to undo that majority in the House is all these errant sound bites that are going to be coming out of the mouths of certain people. They're going to be going because the DNC leadership can say and do whatever it is that they want to do. People already know that these errant remarks, they're not errant remarks. It's discussions that they've had with that DNC leadership that says, this is our ultimate goal. This is what we're going to do. And they believe that they're going to go ahead and have enough to impeach. Trust and believe, folks, they don't want to impeach. They don't want Mike Pence. If they think things are ugly now, go ahead and get Mike Pence in there. See how that works out for you. You're going to wish that you would have kept Mr. Trump.
My favorite thing is not just the impeachment. My favorite thing is knowing that they don't realize if they go after Trump, as long as his numbers are where they are, and as long as they stay where they are, they really don't want to see what will happen if they do that. Because then you're going to find the Americans that are silent will wake up. We have about 800,000 police, both state, federal, and local police officers in the U.S. National Guard, you have maybe another million and a quarter. And then military, you have another 3 million. Yet we have 300 million firearms in the United States in civilian hands. Now, we have a problem dealing with Iraq and Afghanistan at the same time. So their only course is going to go after every Nazi, whatever. Anybody who voted for Trump is a Nazi. This is the bullshit they've put out with the SPLC and the ADL.
Right.
Shit, you're Jewish and you've fucking been targeted by the SPLC and the ADL and Antifa. And you're Jewish. Honestly. So,
right.
It's ridiculous. And you don't think I'll stand toe to toe and hill to hill next to you in a tight 360?
No, we'll pinch it. We'll make it work.
Because that's the thing. They can't get everybody. Our arms reach farther than theirs, internationally, globally. And yet they want to act like they are the supremacists, that they know everything, and yet everybody knows more than they do, but they have to have my 6 million. They have to say and regurgitate 6 million people died numerous times. It's not just during the Second World War. It goes back all the way to the Inquisition. They keep using this magic number. And these wizards they're losing track of this. They don't understand that everybody's questioning everything because they fail to say that the Irish and the Slavs, which is where slave came from, were the first slaves in the Americans.
Right.
And they want to say, oh, it's all bullshit. It's all blacks. No, it wasn't.
Right.
And they also fail to realize that our indigenous personnel that were here when we landed came across the land bridge from Russia. They're Russians and Chinese.
Asian.
Yeah. You're
Asian. They're all Asian. It's just there's so much lack of truth, not failing to be taught all the way around, that our education system, it isn't an education system, it's a system of indoctrination. Baloney.
Yep.
To be polite, not to insult anybody, because that's not my goal here, but the truth is not being taught. The Civil War, was it really about slavery? Or was it about the fact that the North couldn't keep up with the South, and the only way that they could hinder them was to go ahead and to tax them so heavily that they weren't able to go ahead and stay afloat?
Yes.
Let the truth be told first, which instead of the lies and the regurgitation. Yeah, Lincoln was a great man. He freed the slaves. No one wants to talk about Lincoln wanted to go ahead and send the blacks back to Africa where they came from.
Well, no, but he did. Sierra Leone. This happened with the English. They sent their blacks, the ones that wanted to go, to Sierra Leone. We sent ours. This is sad. This actually breaks my heart. We sent ours back to a country that has red, white, and blue and a big ass star on their flag. And they have been at war ever since we put them back there because they wanted to go. And it was all voluntary. And Abraham Lincoln did this shit. So you guys want to really look at things. Look, the smartest people were the ones that stayed. And those people that wanted to go back there, they were slaughtered en masse. But they were able to make a little country called Liberia. Liberia. Think about that. Area.
Yeah, liberty. Liberty.
Yeah.
Liberty.
Liberty.
Say the word.
How much liberty is in Liberia, where they necklace your ass with gasoline and kerosene in a tire?
Yeah.
You know, and the same with Sierra Leone back in the day. You know, and look at what's happening in South Africa. So, I mean, you know, when you're going back, there is an American culture. And that culture is precious. And it's precious to everybody who's indigenous to here. You know, it doesn't matter if somebody thinks this person or that person is not who they want to hang with. That's their own fault. They're going to not get something from whatever they don't want to hang with. I'm good with that. I'm good with even me not getting culturally enriched by certain people. I'm fine with that. But the problem is, when we mandate you have to get culturally enriched or you're a fucking Nazi, that's a problem. That's my 2 cents on it, brother. I'd love to hear your takeaway.
Oh, yeah. Don't tell me what I have to do. The only thing I have to do is pay taxes and die. That's all I have to do. Exactly. I just have to pay taxes and die. I don't have to do anything you tell me to do. I'm a free man. I fought for my freedom. There aren't enough people in the society that have fought for their own freaking freedom like you and myself and a few other people that are out there listening, probably quite a bit more than what I even realize. But we've all fought. Those of us that served, we went and we did our job. Too bad these other swinging units out here couldn't get off their dead keisters to go and take care of their country and didn't find it necessary to be able to go out there and be accountable and stand up and say, God, I love liberty and the freedoms of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and everything that's been given to me by those who have bled and died in all these other wars and conflicts and stuff. I love it so much, I'm willing to go lay my life down for it, but instead they sit on the sidelines and they cast dispersions and bullshit all over the place about stuff that they're so clueless about that if they ever really knew the truth, they would puke.
Exactly, and that's why we'll close this out on this. Trust me, by the morning I should know more. Uh, Dano, he's gonna do a show. We'll do another one on my stream. He'll get his thing up and running. You guys need to listen to Dano. If you want to pimp your stream, please feel free to do so, brother. But I want to close it out, and I want to stress competence comes from not confidence, because you have a lot of motherfuckers out there that are very confident they can do something and yet they fail. Competence comes from, yeah, you have the confidence to take the job on, but you also have a mentor, somebody that will teach you when you fell or be there when you fall and say, now what did you learn from that? And we all do this. This is not me stroking off everybody next to me and myself and it's some sticky wet masturbational fantasy. This is something that comes from the real. So competence is built with confidence, but there has to be that intermediary until you actually do have competence, and you're not the judge of it. Just like, guess what? Here's a big shocker for you folks. I'm not the arbiter of my competence. Hopefully I am now at 50. But guess what? I still run past my old mentors to say, what do you think about this job? What do you think about this? This is my concerns. And they give me their input. That's the key. Now, please fill that in, and I would appreciate that, honestly, brother.
Oh, that isn't a problem. So right now we're working on the stream. We're getting a few things taken care of. We're going to try to bring some more people on with us, be able to go ahead and start to do things. You're going to see a lot of variety here in what we do at KTRN. So KTRN, the letters kind of came out of a discussion that Kaiser and I were having. So, you know, it is what it is. And if you don't have a mentorship, if you don't have people that you can talk to, that's what makes that competence difficult to work with, because your mentors had mentors before that, and they before them, just like that, all the way back in time. There's always been a mentor that helps somebody be better, be able to kind of see the error of their ways, like the size of hands. You and I were doing something, yesterday, and we were comparing notes, and we were looking at size of hands and what we were doing with a particular manipulation of a piece of equipment, and the advantage that one had over the other, and just a slight adjustment, just of ever slight adjustment. And really, honestly, it's blown me away. Mrs. Deanna's tired of hearing about it, but I'm here to tell you, it was a slight adjustment. It wasn't even a quarter of an inch. Made a huge improvement over the situation and the way that we were working with that piece of equipment. So it's you have to have the mentor, and everybody takes something from someone. It doesn't matter what your age is. We all learn something from someone. If you're not learning something, you're not trying, you're not focused, you're not awake at the wheel. And that's what makes the world go round, is when everyone is focused, everyone contributes, and even you can even learn something from a new guy. Someone can say, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? There's a lot of what ifs, and you have to be able to go ahead and sound it out. And that's how that mentorship works, because the new guy's going to learn something from you. You may accidentally learn something from the new guy that you never thought. You may see a potential, you may be able to see yourself in that new person. And you would be like, hey, wait a minute. I remember when I was like that, and I'm going to go ahead and help this person avoid the mistakes that I made. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to leapfrog them in life. I'm going to go ahead and give them that additional knowledge and that hands-on experience to be able to go ahead and make sure that they don't get caught in that. And then they have that confidence to get made up with that confidence. So competence.
And there's value with that young person that maybe has a different bit of training set. And what we were talking about yesterday, I'm not going to give everything in a lurch or whatever, but I'm not going to give it all away either. But what I'm saying is, there may be some set of skill set that somebody can throw to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had it on my page one time. A guy, I thought he was trolling me. And I've known this guy, but when I first saw his name, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Because I know he goes by a different name now.
Right.
But I was like, he's talking about this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, he sends me a message, not just the discernment on that. I'm like, dude, I'm about to ban you. Who the hell do you think you are? And then I go to his page, I see his picture, and I'm like, I know this guy. And then I get a PM from him, a private message on Facebook.
Right.
And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. And I was like, I looked at the video again, and I was like, you're exactly right, man. And I had to eat crow. There has to be a time. There's an old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. But you also have to think, a teacher always, a mentor, teacher, it matters not, always learns more from his student than he will ever give. And that's my 2 cents. And honestly, this has been a more productive conversation than I even dreamed of, because we went through a few different aspects I really want to touch on in depth. But my God, brother, this is why Dano and I, when we get together, KTRN, Alan, Biff, we're all going to get together again, and this is what's going to happen. So with that being said, close it out, brother, however you want to, and I got to pull the music up.
All right. Well, you go ahead and you pull your music up. Thanks for coming along, gang. Enjoyed everyone here on the couch. I guess we're going to have to get another couch to add. We're going to make it an L the next time we have people in here. I'm not always able to see who all is in the chat, but most definitely we do appreciate everyone that hangs out with us. Input's always appreciated as always. Don't hesitate to do that. I'll let you know when I have my stream up and running. We're looking at a few different options right now, but we definitely appreciate your support, being part of what we're doing and listening to us and giving us your feedback. We can't do it without you. That's definitely for sure. So with that, I am going to mute my mic after saying good night. And so, oops, wait a minute. Can't say good night. Is it night? Not sure. But let's try this. Goodbye for now.
The opening song was done by Axion's Ghost. Go to his page and listen. That was inside enemy headquarters, and this final song was Werewolf